All right, guys, what's going on? GoofyRhexxi here. Hope everybody is doing well. Wanted to talk about this subject here today. So we're jumping into, so obviously today was patch day or maintenance day here, and they made some changes already to the game. We also got this information here in the dev notes that we thought was actually going to be going live today as well, but none of it actually went live from the dev notes one. And the only thing that they've actually changed in the game right now is like Captain America and the balancing of like Storm and also Star-Lord. So those three characters got buffed, and some changes to the Omega Shop, which don't like at all. But these dev notes here, wanted to talk about this because I feel like there's a little bit of a controversy right now with some of the changes that they've made specifically to Dark Zone, and they've also made some changes to Omega War, which I think are going to be favorable. But let's start off with Omega War and talk about that first. So they mentioned, if you haven't seen it already, in Omega War matchmaking, in Omega War, matchmaking groups will be separated according to hero level for a more even playing field. Fight the Omega Wars in a fair environment and see chances to turn the game around. This is a massive big deal. I was actually just on stream right now going into Omega War, and seriously, we had literally no chance because a lot of us, I'm 700k power with my Doctor Strange, and a lot of us were going up against other players that are 1.5, 1.4 million, and ultimately there's just really no chance for us to be able to compete in those particular areas. So I do like that they're going to be doing some things here where they're going to improve sort of the matchmaking. Now, if you're going to do it only by hero level, I think that that's kind of limiting it a little bit because a lot of players are already at level 100. I would like to see them do this more at hero power level. I think that would be a better way for them to go. But let's talk about Dark Zone here. This is kind of the big one for a lot of people. Now, Dark Zone, if you don't know already, is a dual mode where you can do both PvP and you can also do PvE content. So PvE, where you're kind of jumping in there and you're grabbing and going against those prime bosses, right? And you're trying to get those Omega cards that you can put on your characters. Some of the Omega cards that are in the game you can only get through Dark Zone, and then some of them you can only get through the shop. But yeah, there's some really good Dark Zone Omega cards that are in there. But then part of it also is PvP content where you can go player versus player and you can attack players also in that zone. And for me right now, I'm kind of going to explain. So I'm on the soft launch server. I'm in Omega Flight right now. And I like Dark Zone. For me, the experience that I currently have in Dark Zone is not always a great one, right? Whenever they have those double drop, those double points, it usually gets really challenging because once again, 700k power, there's other players that are in there that are probably up to 1 million, 1.2 million, 1.4 million. I think there's somebody right now that's up to 1.5 million who I know pretty well. But I'm saying that the matchmaking there is really challenging. And if you're trying to go in and you're trying to focus down on trying to get your Omega cards, right, and not really trying to focus down on getting other characters, you could potentially just end up getting sniped by another player. And then, of course, that creates a just not a very good experience overall. So I actually like the fact that they're going to change the channels now. There are 3 channels. And I like that they're going to change the channels into where it's only going to be, there's going to be 2 channels that are going to be primarily PvP channels, and then this one channel is going to be the PvE channel. Now, I think the frustration for some of the higher level players here is that in that PvE, with the PvE channel, that they're concerned that players are going to be racking up points, and that is going to go towards their weekly rankings, and it's going to be harder for players who are largely in the PvP section to then not be able to rack up those points. And I think that that analysis, I understand why that analysis is there, but I honestly think that that's just a one-sided way of looking at things. The way that I view, first of all, the PvE portion of it is that I think that first of all, there's going to be a lot more players that want to go into that PvE section, right? Think about it. When you unlock Dark Zone, that's when you get to level 100. That's right after you beat the Maestro fight. Realistically, that's probably when you're around 250, because you can beat them at 250k power level to about 350k power level, right? Depending on your level of spending or your level of activity, whatever the case is, your power level could be higher. But for the most part, then if you're not going to want to jump right into the PvP section version of it, you're going to want to just focus on getting those Omega cards with the PvE content and getting those bosses. You're going to want to focus on that section of the game because you just cannot compete with all the other characters. Like I said, where I am now, this might be unique to my server, but I think overall that as other servers are sort of to advance, that each server is going to have your whales, you're going to have your krakens, you're going to have players who are going to be spending a lot of time in the game, and they're going to have high power levels, right? And that could widen the gap a little bit, and trying to compete at that level could really make it a really bad experience for overall players. So I think that I actually like that there's going to be a dedicated section that's not going to be PvP, so that players will have a better chance of easing into that game mode and having a better experience in that game mode, learning how Dark Zone plays, learning how to go about going and fighting those different prime bosses, and kind of getting the feel of how things work, right? Grouping up with other players and then getting stuff done. I feel like it kind of warms them, kind of is a warmer way of them entering into this Dark Zone area. Those are kind of just my thoughts on it. And to address the point of, hey, if I am worried now that people who are just in this PvE zone are going to be getting more points, that to me, I think is an incorrect way of looking at it. Now, it's warranted because I do understand why one would think that way, but I don't think that that's actually going to be the case. Like I said, it's going to be a more saturated channel. Players who are probably going to be entering in there most likely won't be at high power levels, so they're probably not going to be able to melt down bosses as quickly as you probably think that they're going to be able to melt down those bosses. So really, in reality, I don't think the points are going to rack up. I still think that you're going to have a better opportunity to get more points by actually sticking in the PvP section. But overall, as a player that is not as high power leveled, you're probably going to definitely be able to benefit more from staying in the PvE section of Dark Zone. So for me, I like this change. I think it's a good change for the game. I think that this is something that should have happened a long time ago. And I think obviously a lot of this kind of came to a head a couple weeks ago with some stuff that happened in the game. Not going to rehash that, not going to talk about that. But obviously I think that that's the reason why a lot of this kind of popped up. But now it shows that the devs are listening. It shows that the devs are paying attention. I do think that they need to rebalance a lot of other areas in the game too. I think Dimension Duel is largely unbalanced, where a lot of players are still kind of being matched up against other players that just overall are the discrepancies are big. In Dimension Duel, it's usually lopsided one way or another. Either I'm way overpowered for the player that I'm going against, or the player that is going against me is overpowering me by a large sum. It's usually kind of one or the other. Omega War is still kind of the same way. I just went into an Omega War where we essentially just got decimated. I think they got 4,000 points. We got 300 points because they have massive, large players that have these large accounts, right? So in my opinion, this is a step in the right direction. I think that this bodes well for the entirety of the game, and I just explained the reason why I think that. So just kind of preparing you guys for, or just kind of giving my thoughts on this. I understand why this portion of it here might be somewhat frustrating for maybe players who really want that PvE content and may be concerned about, of course, there only being a PvE. There's going to be a dedicated channel to PvE, but I think overall that this is going to be better for the game, and it's going to ease other players into Dark Zone better, in my personal opinion. Listen, appreciate you guys so very much. Thank you for watching the video. Leave a comment. I want to hear what your guys' thoughts are too, as well, when it comes to these Dark Zone changes. What do you think that they should be doing more? What are your suggestions in regards to potentially what they could do to improve that and improve some of the other areas of the game as well? But always want to hear it. Thank you guys so much. More Marvel Future Revolution content coming on this channel here. Appreciate you guys so very much. Y'all be blessed and y'all be safe. Started from the bottom, now we're here. Started from the bottom, now the whole team is here. I didn't kept it real. I might get copyrighted for that. I probably shouldn't sing it. Dang it. Sorry, Drake. Sorry, bud.